Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages over the age of 16. Welcome to another race recap from the Evo Sim Racing guys. This week we are racing at the fabulous Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. On the grid today we have Dan Slattery, the returning Dan, hits pole with a qualifying time of 1 minute 37.7. Just behind him, only 0.1 off, we have Mr. James Hurlo. Beyond that, in third place is the unflappable Steve Everson with a 1:38.157. Just 6,000ths of a second behind him is Mr. Jeff Sharp. Last week's winner of both rounds, Mark Pendlebury, comes up fifth. Paul Nicholson, with his absolutely unfailable pedals and new steering wheel and whole new rig, is there in sixth. Anthony Tuggy Murray is there in seventh. Axel is in 8th, Brian in 9th, and at the back of the grid we have Josh. So we join the grid as they set off, and it looks like they get a clean getaway this time, are they? They come into the first corner and everything looks clean so far. And they come 2x2, 2x2, there's a little tap there, nothing too bad. Through they go. It looks like they're through the first part of the lap fine with no problems at all. So Mr. Dan Slattery's got the lead there, James Hurlo second. Steve Everson in third and Jeff Sharp fourth and Mark's in fifth. They're going to keep this up as they go through the second chicane. There are a lot of chicanes on this track, so I guarantee you that there will be some trouble in one of them at least once. So we have Josh here in the background as he comes into the hairpin, just comes in a little bit too quick, puts on the power a little bit too soon, and he spins himself out. Nice little flick and off he goes. So down the big long straight, and it looks like we've got, I don't know, everyone keeps changing all their liveries all the time, so I've got no idea, I'll work it out in a minute, but here we go. Through first, is anyone going to touch the wall of champions here? No, they're all through, nice and sound. So we come into the first corner and we have Paul trying to make a move on Axel here, I think, with Brian just tucking him behind. Paul chucks it down the inside. Is he going to be able to make it stick into the second chicane? Looks like he's got the run. Is he going to be able to make it stick? Oh, he sends it through and through he goes. We stick through the action here as we got Axel trying to mount and return back on Paul. Sticks it in nicely here as they go through the third chicane. Paul nearly loses it, manages to keep it straight though. Axel is going to try and tuck down the inside as they hear. No, he tucks behind. Brian's there in the background, just rubbing his hands with glee, waiting for anything to happen. Here they go into the third chicane. Oh, and we've skipped forward and we seem to have Jeff and Mark in front of Steve here. Let's see if we can work out what's happened. Oh, before we do that though, we have Axel making a move on Paul again as he goes through the outside. They come into the hairpin. Paul's going to take the lunge. iRacing, stop fucking changing people who are watching. And we start following Steve here in the inflappable Bonjela sponsored car. If you've seen this child, please don't report it to anyone. Anyway, into the chicane he comes. It's absolutely inflappable. Nothing could go. I bite my own words. Something does go wrong. He takes it nice and easy though and gets back on track as Jeff and Mark come flying through. I think Steve's just serving a slow down there, trying to get rid of this extra time. Is he going to try and burn that off before Tuggy behind him catches up? And we jump back on board with the Axel and Paul battle. I had these wrong way round. I think Axel's in the Toyota car, but anyway, Paul seems to pull off here and he seems to have a little bit of a head start, but with the way the tow works in his cars, could Brian have a go as well? Down long straight they go. Through the DRS section, which we don't bother using because we are real racers. Brian has a little look. Thinks better of it. Into the wall of champion chicane they come. We're going to be able to hold this nicely. It looks that way. Through they go. So into the first chicane, and I'm sorry, it is Paul in the Toyota car. And Axel in the McLaren. Axel runs a bit wide, Paul sticks it down the inside. I think we could do a whole race just watching these three. Through Paul goes. into into the second chicane. Is Axel going to make a move? No, he's just going to stick on tight. Oh, and Paul's nearly lost it. Just about gathers it again. What's Axel going to do here? Is he going to make a move? Sticking as tight up that rear end of that Toyota, which isn't a Toyota, as close as he can. Going to make a move? No, he sticks it nice and tight. Oh, Axel's gone side by side with Paul. Into the hairpin they're going to go. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? And is there going to be any fun here? Axel's got the run so far, but Paul takes down the inside. He dives in. Dives late. Misses his turning. Axel spins. Brian misses them all and pulls through. I don't know if that was a brilliant bait and switch or what, but Paul is through. It looks like Axel spun himself out. And we jump forward into our third and fourth place cars as Mark Pendlebury's putting the pressure on Jeff. Through the world champions they come. All looks good so far. Steve there in the background must be rubbing Bonjela all over himself in sympathy. Into the first corner they come, and there's literally a gnat's width between them. We jump forward a little bit here, and we still have Mark chasing down Jeff. These two have been side by side, back end to front end, the whole way through the race so far. Couldn't even separate them by anything, but they're still going all the way at it. Oh, is Mark going to make a move here? Oh no! What's happened to Mr. Sharp? What's happened to Mr. Sharp? He's letting everyone go through. Steve goes through. Let's jump on board and see what's happened. So we're on board with Jeff here. We can see he comes into the chicane. He's got Mark right behind him. Brakes beautifully. Comes into the chicane. Over the curb. Puts the throttle on. And keeps the throttle on. Let's change gear at some point here, Jeff. Oh no, he's given off, but he's floating. No, there's no steering input here. Anything could happen. He comes into the... He tries the hairpin. But he's got no gears. But there must be some kind of mechanical issue that's happened here. Oh, snap left and into the barrier. I'm not sure if that was meant or not, but that must have hurt. We haven't mentioned him much since Paul and Axel had their ding-dong. But here's Mr. Brian Dodd having a nice steady race today. See if he can keep this going. He comes into the second chicane a little bit too hot. Into the barriers. Gives it a good old smooch. I think that's going to be toast there, mate. That's going to be a tow. Oh, you better give your tow driver a Jaffa cake. And towards the front of the field, we seem to have our front three kind of locked in here at the moment. We have Mr. Dan Slattery in the lead. Mr. James Hurlow just behind him there. And right on James Hurlow's tail is Mark Pendlebury. Into the Wall of Champions we come. Lovely line there by Mr. Dan Slattery. Jump on the action and lap and a half or so later, and we see that Mark is still chasing down Mr. Hurlow, putting loads of pressure on him. Oh, and the unflappable Mr. Hurlow seems to have gone off there. He'll get a slowdown for that, so he'll have to tuck it on the inside. Let Mark come through. Is he going to let him have it easy though? No, he's not going to make him work. He's just going to let him wave him through and say, "There you go, my lord. Off you go." And a bit further back, with both of these two seem to have some sort of issue during the race. We have Paul chasing down Brian here. Brian going to let him have it? Maybe not quite so easily. They come down the big, long back straight. Lovely, murky Canadian waters there on the right-hand side of the screen. As Paul goes on the outside, is Brian going to tuck in? Yes, it's not going to put up too much of a fight and just lets the young man from the Isle of Man go through. And we jump back on board the action here as we have Tuggy and Axel. Axel seems to have gone wide at the first chicane and hairpin thing. Tuggy's going to send it down the inside as they come into the second chicane. He sends it, licks it, and that's it. That's stamped and approved. Through he goes. Meanwhile, the battle at the front is really heating up as we have Mark chasing down Dan at a matter of knots. Mr. Slattery has said that he'd be able to take every single turn flat out if only he was able to. Meanwhile, Mark behind him laughed at him and said, "You do that if you want to, mate. We'll see." Weaving down the front straight as Dan tries to break the toe as Mark pulls up on him as fast as he can. Meanwhile, we jump further back as Brian seems to be troubling Paul here. Will he be able to make a move? God knows the director doesn't want us to see. Anyway, Mark and Dan, this will be a battle. A lap or so later, and we're going to the first couple of corners, and we have Mark literally right on the backside now of Dan. Is he going to send it down the inside? No, he tucks back in. He thinks better of that. I'll get a better chance later. Oh, Dan, and so close to the wall there. His mirrors are so full of that lovely multicolour ice pop scheme that Mark has in his car. And I think it's distracting him a lot here. They come down the straight here towards the 4th, 5th, it could be the 8th chicane here. There's so many of them. Mark make another move, or is he just going to tuck behind and wait for something to happen? It looks that way. Down they come into the hairpin. Now this is the best place to make a move. Looks like Mark's thinking about it. No, he's just selling him a dummy there. Wonder what kind of dummies that Danny likes to eat in his spare time. Anyway, back onto the really long back straight here. Mark's going to end up with such a good draft. It's got to be a move made here, surely. Literally pushing him along now. Coming up to the wall champion chicane. Dan makes it in the inside. Mark on the outside. He thinks better of it. Is Dan going to be able to hold this now? Mark should get the better run. Out they come, and there seems to be a rear wing on the course. Mr. Sharp seems to have recovered at some point, and not recovered very well there, as you can see him there on the right-hand side with no wing. Probably not the best idea to take your wing off and throw it at people, though, Jeff, but at least it wasn't turn 1 this time, eh? Anyway, through the first few corners they go, and Dan is still in the lead. Mark is pressuring him like hell. Into the second chicane there comes, and Dan's put a wheel on the grass. Oh, what a save that is. He's going to take Mark out. No, he manages to keep it in a straight line, but that's it now. He'll be chasing down Mark instead of Mark chasing him down. Mark's through, waves freebie, and through he goes. Meanwhile, I think it's fair to say that Jeff Sharp here isn't having the best of days. He's trying the new low downforce look, and as you can see, that might not be the best idea. Kisses the barrier though, and through Mr. Hurlo goes. I think Jeff will be throwing the towel in this one as he magically teleports back to the pits. And we jump back on board with Brian, who seems to be having trouble with this chicane today. Is he going to do any better here? No, he decides that no, I'm going to take the new and improved line. Through he goes, off the grass. And we jump back on board with our leaders as we have Mark, with Dan absolutely clattering the circuit, trying to catch up with him here. And we can see, I think that's... who's they catching up with here? I think this is Josh. Oh, Josh has disappeared, has he? No, he's still there. He's not there. He's there. He's not there. He could still be there. It takes a very wide line to let them through, but that was good because we had no idea where he was. Anyway, a few corners later, we have Mark still chasing, trying to get away from the chasing Dan Slattery. Into the second chicane they come. Dan still trying to put the wheel on that line there if possible. Has he learned his lesson? Oh no, someone's hit something. I'm not sure if you heard that at home, but that absolutely burst my eardrums. Doesn't seem to be any damage to either car though, so who knows what happened there. Anyway, half a lap later on, and we have Mark still pressuring Dan, or Dan pressuring Mark, sorry, you know, they're interchangeable. Anyway, into the hairpin they come, out onto the big long straight. Now Mark is going to get pressure to hell here by Dan, as Dan has the amazing slipstream down the big long straight. Which way is he going to send him? Is he going to tuck on the outside? Mark's going to keep on the inside, Dan on the outside here. Into the wall of champions chicane they go. Oh, that's beautiful tight racing there, and it looks like Dan's got the... Oh no. What on earth's happened there? Did Dan get a slow down as Mark pulls through? Anyway, that marks the end of the race, and we seem to have Mark with the win. Dan in second. Mr. James Hurlo in third. Steve in fourth. All Top 4 drivers only separated by 9 seconds or so there. That's how close and tight that was at the end. And at the end there, just to confirm how we finished up, we ended up with Dan Slattery actually getting the win. It seems that the line is a lot further back on the finish straight there than someone, i.e. this person, might have known. But anyway, Dan gets the win. Mark ends up finishing a second behind him, with James Hurlow in third, 4 seconds behind, and Steve fourth, 9.1 seconds behind. Behind him, a good 37 seconds back from the leader, we have Paul. Tuggy just behind him, with Axel just about hanging on to the lead lap there. Brian ends up just the 1 lap down, Josh ends up 2 laps down, and with Jeff's multiple technical issues and unfortunate pushing too hard to try and get the fastest lap, he ends up 2 laps down and unfortunately in 10th place. So we join the cars on the grid for the start of race 2. Now this should be in reverse championship order, but things have gone a little bit squiffy. But anyway, we've ended up with Axel on pole, Paul in second with Tuggy in third, Mr. Slattery in fourth, Steve in fifth, Jeff Sharp in sixth, James Hurlow 7th, Mark Pendlebury in 8th, Brian in 9th, and Joshua at the back. So we join the cars on the grid as off they go. It looks like Dan Slattery and Steve have had fantastic starts here. Dan's through, Jeff's through, Steve has decided to mount Tuggy there and off they go. Tuggy's rear wing's gone, half of Steve's car gone, the rest of the field seem to have got through safely. Steve's car is completely wrecked there, that looks like that will need to be a tow. Now normally these things would be a penalty for the person that makes the awful move there at the start, but we've looked at fan footage and we can prove that Steve's car was in fact in front at the point of the apex, therefore there will be no penalty applied and it'll be up to the cars to sort themselves out as off they go. We jump forward in the field a little bit and it looks like we've got Paul here going slowly. Not going to see that though as Tuggy's gone off. Yeah, it looks like the damage that Steve may have inflicted on him has caused too much of an issue there, and off he goes to teleport to the pits. Jump forward a little bit, it looks like we got Mark followed by Paul, with James Hurlow just behind. Axel still in the lead with Paul right on him. Paul makes the move onto Dan here. Oh, and James Hurlow sends it through and so does Mark as well. Hurlow's going to send it through onto Dan here. Looks like, yes, we don't want to see Paul, we want to see what's right in front of him, mate. Looks like Hurlow's gone on the outside. Is he going to be able to hold that there? Mark's on the inside. Dan's waiting behind for anything to happen. Through they go. Onto the long back straight and jostling for position. Remember, everything is won or lost on the first lap. Into the wall of champions they're heading up to. Dan's going to angle himself for a move, is he? No. Look at the camera angle here, and it looks like everyone's through safely. Looks like Brian's trying to make a move on Paul as they go 3 wide, with Mark suffering some damage. Is he there? He seems to be suffering really badly there. Anyway, through Brian goes on Paul. Great little move there. Keeping it safe and sensible. Oh, Mark has spun it. He's lost it. Week 1, race 1 and 2 winner seems to be struggling a lot more in this car, and after his second place finish in the first race, I think it's safe to say he won't be getting a second place finish here in this second race. Oh, and James sends it through on Axel there. Axel tucks in behind to try and get the slipstream, does he? Down the big long straight they go with James here in second place. Axel in third and Dan here in fourth. That slipstream seems to be pulling Axel right back up onto the back of James. Through the World Champions they go. Axel takes that a little bit too deep. It looks like that's going to allow Dan to fly through into third place. Axel hasn't given up yet though as they come into the, is this the first corner, second corner, third corner, who knows. It's one of the chicanes though. Dan sends it through. Now I've got to apologise because I've been doing everyone a disservice, and that is not in fact Dan Slattery, although he's in a very similar car. That is in fact Jeff Sharp. The hero returns. Now Jeff is on the rear wing of James here as they come into the third, fourth, fifth chicane, whichever one it is. Beautiful Evo livery there. Not sure who made that one, but it wasn't there, Steve. Anyway, it looks like Brian's got a freebie here. It looks like Axel's spun off and Brian's got through. Brian is still right on the rear wing of Paul here, though, so it looks like Paul got through on Brian at some point. Brian's going to be patient here, though, and let's see what happens to Paul. Into the final hairpin they come. Looks like they're through sensibly, and Brian will just sit there and wait for something to happen. Just a few corners later, we have Axel here, still trying to keep up with Jeff. Oh, he's sent it into the chicane a little bit too hard. And spun it. And that allows Paul and Brian to go through. And there goes Mark Pendlebury as well. Anyway, outside from their pit stops, looks like we've got Steve chasing down Tuggy, and Tuggy has done a full 180. Steve flies through, and Tuggy's now going to try and bring that back on track, as we seem to have the leaders coming through here as well. So that'll be Dan in the lead. Tuggy now is going to tuck behind him, a lap down. And with the nice wide line there, off he goes with Jeff Sharp now in second place. Let's see if we can find out where that move happened. So we jump back a lap or so here, and we can see that Mr. Hurlow's leading Jeff. He catches the inside of the chicane a little bit too hard, spins off. Jeff goes with a mighty weave. Through he goes. We haven't mentioned him much today, but here's Mr. Josh Morris coming into the Wall of Champions, and he's spun it. And he's wall-rided, 360, no scopes that sausage curb there. And through he goes, keeping it still going. And further down the field, we have Steve catching up with Josh now, coming down the big, long straight. Josh's car looks like it might be a little worse for wear there. Might be missing a front wing. That will affect your ability to turn. Anyway, Steve comes through, and Josh, yep, you can see there he's really struggling. Let's hope the young man's going to pit there. Is he going to do a nice little bump over the sausage curb? And through he goes. A bit further back here, and we have Brian right on the rear of Axel. Looks like these two are going to settle in as they try and chase down. I think that's Paul in front. And we have Mark here trying to chase down the guys he's let through with his mistake. Oh, and we have Josh disappearing, appearing, and everything else there. Looks like that car is a little bit kaput. Anyway, Mark's on a mission. Oh, and he's spun! Mr. Pendlebury's spun. Wonder what on earth happened there. Let's take another look. Oh, and that car is very broken. Coming into the chicane, he comes in just a little bit too hot. Oh, and he's caught. Is that Mr. Hurlow? He caught Mr. Hurlow there, and oh, that's not a good look for your car. Yeah, you're going to struggle to do anything with that if you're going to be turning left all the time. And here we have Mr. Jeff Sharp coming through the Wall of Champions chicane, looking absolutely amazing here. Jump back on board with Dan as he comes out of his pit, and he's just missed Steve there. Steve tucks him behind. He's going to try and get a tow for a lap or two if he can keep up. But after his pit stop, it looks like Mr. Dan Slattery is in prime position to take that win. And just to prove that even the best of us, our mighty Lord Pendlebury, comes into the chicane here, takes it a little bit too hot, trying to chase that fastest lap point. He's 180'd it, he's righted it, and off he goes again. Happens to the best of us, mate, trust me. Oh, and we've got Paul here. Paul's, yeah, I think that's a bit broken, mate. And we jump on board with Josh here as he seems to have Paul behind him. Coming up to the Wall of Champions chicane again. Comes in, oh, it's a little hot, isn't it? Oh, now he's proper Jensen Button, that one. That one's going to hurt in the morning. And we come on to the last lap here as the charging Steve in 6th place. He's trying to chase down a top 5 with Brian trying to stop him getting any kind of traction in that position at all. Into the hairpin they come, and Steve is going to try and make a move here, is he? No, he tucks it in nicely. He's going to try and make a move on the straight. Tries to maximise his exit here. Balls up on the inside. They're going to go side by side. Now Steve tucks behind him. Down the long straight he goes. Now Steve should get a nice run here, so they might end up side by side coming into the chicane. It's that famous Wall of Champions chicane. Steve takes the outside line. Brian parks it on the inside. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers here? Side by side they come into it. Break about the 2:30 mark. Oh, and Brian's took the inside line. Steve is there. Brian's managed to hold it beautifully. Steve puts everything down, but unfortunately can't make it. And that is a wonderful top 5 finish there by Mr. Brian Dodd. And that leaves us with our race result for race 2. Have Dan Slattery taking his 2nd win. You get the first one, I can't remember, but anyway, he gets the win today with Jeff Sharp on the 2nd step of the podium, Mr. Hurlow with his 2nd podium, Mark Pendlebury ends up in 4th place, even with his 15 spins, Brian with an absolutely fantastic 5th place finish, charging Steve there just behind him, Paul ends up 7th, a lap down, Josh ends up 5 laps down, Axel threw the towel in quite early there, and Tuggy threw the towel in even earlier, put the washing on, and then watched the rest of the race with his feet up. Okay, and that leaves us with our championship standings. Now bear in mind that you get a drop week in this championship, so therefore it's automatically applied a drop week if needed. But anyway, we'll work out the rest when it comes to it. But we have Mr. Mark Pendlebury leading the championship with 33 points, Dan Slattery in 2nd with 31, Jeff Sharp in 3rd with 18, James and Tuggy tied on 15, Steve on 12, Paul on 10 with Chris and Brian also on 10, Axel is in 10th place with 6th, and Chris Palmer and Josh Morris bring up the rear with 4 points apiece. I'll see you guys next time as we head to the Alton Park circuit. No, we don't, we head to Charlotte for the ARCA race. See you all there. Bye.